Hey guys, it's Sam, CME45 here, doing a video today about prevention. So, throughout my life, I've had many struggles with other people. Whether it's simple arguing or them letting me down, people never seem to have my back. No one cares as much as I do, I thought. And here's the worst part, there wasn't anything I could do to make them care. Now this really took a toll on my relationships with people and my ability to trust them. That was until I got my first job, and it taught me the technique that makes almost every interaction in my life a positive one. I simply learned prevention, which is exactly as it sounds. If you think someone or something's going to cause a problem, you simply prevent it from happening in the first place. In this video, I will be talking about my coming to understand this technique, as well as some situations that I have applied this to. Now, without further ado, let's get that intro rolling. Hey guys, if you like my content and want to see more, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really motivates me. Now let's get the start to this video. To understand how I came to learn this technique, we need to discuss how I became the person I am today. I grew up in a family with 4 other siblings in my early childhood. Now obviously, in a family with 5 kids, me being the second youngest, it was hard for my parents to give us all attention, which I'm not blaming them for. There's a lot of kids. But this led to me becoming needy for attention. And the constant need for approval from my parents leached into other aspects of my life, and now I need approval from everyone. But this all culminated when my parents got divorced when I was 8. But most of my memories from around this time period are lost to time, just because, a lot going through a lot of that time. But from what I do remember, it does paint a picture of learning manipulation techniques, even if at this time it wasn't necessarily malicious. Now, this being, of course, these memories that I'm remembering are interactions with the men my mother would date. You see, I learned that these men would give me all the attention I would want as long as I did a good enough job pretending to be their son. In this time period, it kind of became very apparent to me that all middle-aged men want to have a son to spend time with, even if they don't admit it. And to further this, my mother almost dated exclusively childless men who'd focused on their careers instead of building a family. And as a child, something inside of me could tell something was missing in their life, and I came to fill it. I would mimic what I would do with my own dad. Which is just kind of follow them around, be interested in whatever they're saying or doing, kind of just spending a lot of time with them. And none of my other siblings really wanted anything to do with these guys. And after I built a relationship with each one of them, I also learned how to make sure they didn't have a relationship with them either. I would simply communicate what they would say to my dad or what they would say to me back to him. Now, this behavior, while it's definitely not good, it's not good to sabotage other people, but I was kind of young and I can forgive myself, and my siblings never ended up caring anyways. But this can be seen as the earliest use of prevention in my life. I wanted to prevent my siblings from gaining attention over me, so I prevented it from happening. Of course, at this age, I didn't realize the prevention part of it yet. I just wanted to be loved. Fast forward to when I was 14, I had just entered high school, and I got my first job at a certain Christian chicken restaurant that loves to say my pleasure. Right after working there on my 15th birthday, I actually looked at one of my stepsister's stories on Snapchat. It's worth noting around this time period, my dad had remarried, although I was talking about my mom before. At this point, though, I was on break getting some lunch. Like I said, it was my birthday, and I had decided to work. I know it's a little silly, but at that time period, I didn't really value my birthday that much. I didn't really care. However, what I did mind was when I looked at my stepsister's story, I had seen that my dad had taken them all to Disney World. Now, nowadays, that doesn't really bother me that much because, I don't really like Disney that much. But at the time, I saw it as very hurtful. Now, why would my dad choose the stepfamily over me? Now, obviously, I was working, so it's not like he could do much, but it was the principle of it at the time. And after pondering for a while, I thought to myself, how do I prevent myself from being disappointed like this again? And it was simple. At the time, I dropped almost all expectations of my dad to make an effort to maintain a relationship with me. For example, I started buying my own food. Obviously, I had a job at this point, so I pretty much wouldn't eat at home. Normally when I would be spending time with my dad or my family, kind of just staying out in the open, I would hide away in my room. And I would honestly just stop following him. And honestly, one of the biggest things was I always loved to ask my dad questions, and I kind of just stopped. And this worked for a while, but I found myself still wanting a relationship with my dad because obviously I love him, and I grew up in a family where family itself is very important, and maintaining those relationships is good. So the question I had went from how can I prevent this from happening to how can I prevent this from happening while maintaining a relationship with my dad? And I just learned to put in enough effort for the both of us. For example, a couple years ago, I moved out of the house to go to college, and I made an effort to constantly visit him at least twice a month, over and over, like without fail. And which doesn't actually sound like much, but I live in a city over an hour away from where I, grew up, and gas ain't cheap. I still work full time even when I was in college, and it was a lot of effort. And I just learned to nullify what I wanted and simply would go along with what he wanted. I would do whatever he wanted. I wouldn't really speak up. And all of this sounds negative, but it's important to note that I'm not kind of seeing it that way. I just believe it's important for everyone to know that not everyone is willing to put in the same effort that you're necessarily willing to prevent or to put in. Moral of this part of the story is to say that expectations lead to disappointment. And the only way that I found to let go of that disappointment is to just get rid of those expectations to begin with. And for one last, little story, I'm going to go to something a lot more modern day and something a lot more minuscule. It's simple. So I have two roommates right now, and we have a washer and dryer, and one of my roommates just will not pull the lint out of the dryer. No matter how much I've talked, I've had multiple discussions with this man telling him that not only is it bad for the machine, it can also start a fire if it builds up over time. Although, I always pulled out the lint in mine. Of course, did he care? No. So I thought, how do I prevent that from happening? How do I prevent him from leaving it in the machine? Now, in this case, I actually believe there were two options. The first being what I ended up going with is to just suck it up and do it for him. It was just so much effort to make him, try to convince him to take it out that I ended up just doing it myself. And, it sucks, but it was the less confrontational path. And like I said, I ended up choosing that one. But the other option would have been to get back at him, in my opinion. For example, the same guy is particular about leaving food out on the counter, which I myself am kind of bad about, or I was. And after he had a discussion with me in the same way I had with him, where he said, look, we need to be throwing away our food. And, I actually listened, unlike him. But in another world, I could have, not listened as well, give him a little taste of his own medicine. But ultimately, this is very volatile technique. That's why I didn't end up going with it, simply because, he could easily get back at me further, and it would just be a whole mess. And it's a situation I didn't want to be in. But ultimately, what I'm trying to get at with this video is that prevention is the easiest tool to prevent disappointment. If you want something, prevent other people from having it. If you want someone's not doing anything, prevent the need for that person to have to do it in the first place. Is someone not putting the effort needed in a relationship? Simply prevent them from needing to put in the effort at all. All of this is to say that relying on other people is a one-way ticket to unhappiness. Everyone is their own tyrant. No one wants to do something they don't want to do. So be the person that does. Thank you guys for watching.